Numerous newspapers reported a rumour that my biological father was James Hewitt, a man my mother had a relationship with after I was born. At the time of this article and others similar to it, I wasn't actually aware that my mother hadn't met Major Hewitt until after I was born. This timeline is something I only learned of in around 2014, although I now understand this was common knowledge amongst the defendant's journalists. At the time when I was 18 years old and had lost my mother 6 years earlier, stories such as this felt very damaging and very real to me. They were hurtful, mean, and cruel. In my experience as a member of the royal family, each of us gets cast into a specific role by the tabloid press. You start off as blank canvas while they work out what kind of person you are and what kind of problems and temptations you might have. As a teenager in my early 20s, I ended up feeling as though I was playing up to a lot of the headlines and stereotypes that they wanted to pin on me, mainly because I thought that if they're printing this rubbish about me and people will believe in it, I may as well do the crime, so to speak. You're then either the playboy prince, the failure, the dropout, or in my case, the thicko, cheat, the underage drinker, the irresponsible drug taker. Looking back on it now, such behaviour on their part is utterly vile. Every time I was in a relationship or rumoured relationship, that whole person's family, and often their friends, would be dragged into the chaos. On a national level, as at the moment, our country is judged globally by the state of our press and our government, both of which I believe are at rock bottom. Democracy fails when your press fails to scrutinise and hold the government accountable, and instead choose to get into bed with them so that they can ensure the status quo. In order to save journalism, as a profession, journalists need to expose these people in the media that have stolen or hijacked the privileges and powers of the press, and have used illegal or unlawful means for their own gain and agendas. I knew I had been stupid, and I was deeply apologetic and regretful. I was suspicious of everyone around me, wondering who was prepared to sell photographs or details of my life. I was always careful about who I trusted. The article further reported on relationships with my father, stating I was sulking like a teenager after he grounded me, that I was being forced to do a dull desk job and help out on the farm near Highgrove by cleaning out the pigsties and helping with the cattle. It also includes a quote from a royal source that said I'd been told to knuckle down. There were obviously consequences within my family, which I fully accepted, but I know my father was particularly unhappy with the poor judgment I had shown. However, as is reported in the article, the palace had already issued an apology on my behalf, and details of how my father thought fit to punish me for my actions were not part of that.
14th article, 28th December 2003, about the possibility of you and your brother meeting with Paul Burrell. Your complaint is about an alleged disagreement with your brother about meeting Paul Burrell. You refer to this as a private disagreement.
Yes.
Your brother wanted a meeting, but you were firmly against it.
The phrase two-faced shit may have come from a voicemail. That's how I've always seen him.
You agree the way that you've written in Spare suggests you wanted to meet him. You make it clear that you wanted a meeting. Is that account in Spare true?
Yes.
There is no suggestion in Spare that you were firmly against a meeting.
No, because I wrote it when I was 38 years old, and in this story I was 18. I assume I would have wanted a meeting. I'd love to give him a piece of my mind. At the time, I was firmly against the meeting. I was in the middle of the Australian outback. Hindsight is a very different thing. I can't remember whether I wanted a meeting or not.
Do you think the details for your thumb injury story came from phone hacking or unlawful information gathering?
Both.
You allege that the journalist hacked your phone to get the information.
Either from herself, or she got someone else to do the dirty work for her.
Which phone of yours would have been intercepted?
I can't be sure.
That's not an answer.
The doctors, I'm not sure.
You think the journalist or somebody on her behalf hacked a doctor's phone? Are we not, Prince Harry, in the realms of total speculation? How can you be paranoid if you're not aware of the article?
I'm just speculating. I can't be sure of how much of it I read or which ones I didn't. From my understanding, quotes were attributed to a source, an onlooker, which creates suspicion.
It does if you read the article. It doesn't if you don't.
As a child growing up and in my teenage years, I was under press invasion. This has happened for most of my life, and still to this day.
6th article. 2 articles on front page and page 11. Sunday Mirror, 13th January 2002, show you sharing a joint with your friends and your father's response.
Yes.
Your complaint, allegations that you smoked cannabis and your father's reaction, that he gave you a stern warning, that he understood you wanted to enjoy your teenage years. Do you say that was obtained by phone hacking?
Unlawful information gathering. I'm not sure how the two are separated.
The palace accepted that this wasn't an invasion of privacy, but a matter of public interest.
I've never smoked a joint in that pub or in my father's house. There's a difference between the public interest and what interests the public.
Are you suggesting that journalists who wrote articles have blood on their hands?
Journalists and editors who've caused pain and upset.
But specifically these articles?
It's a broader statement.
But you're here to put a stop to this madness.
Yes. It's not a specific article, but all of the articles. Each individual article. As a child, every single one of these articles played a destructive role in my growing up. But to say I'd read every single one of these articles would be speculation.
16th September 1996, Mirror article. Complaint about details of claimant's feelings about divorce of his parents and ill health of family friend. As far as you recall, you didn't have use of a mobile phone at the date of the article in 1996. Therefore, the article couldn't have involved hacking, as you didn't have phone until 1998.
But I did have access to landline when I arrived at school, but could have been my mother's mobile phone.
But that's speculation.
I can't be sure.
Would it come as a surprise for you to know an article in the Times on the same day as the Daily Mirror contained the same quote and attribution?
No.
Presumably you wouldn't suggest the quote from the Times was a result of hacking or unlawful information gathering?
I have no idea. You'd have to ask them.
Why have you maintained a claim for damages on the basis of these 2 articles?
It's based on legal advice because Mr. Steve Atkinson was the author of the article and what's been previously admitted by the Mirror Group.